Good evening, my dear viewer. Hopefully you can hear and see. This is a new camera. The resolution may not be as good as my usual iPhone 4. This is a Sky phone. I'm not sure what the make and the model is. You'll see. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is Zaidiboy. Thanks for visiting my YouTube channel. You'll see that we're on, and it's Samulus Remus, my Twitter handle. It should be down in the description, as well as if you actually go to my Twitter profile, you'll be able to see all of my other links to blogs and various things like that. Now, you'll see that on the Amazon.com website, guys, this is the book How Google Works. Okay, you can actually look inside the book. I tell people this all the time. You can open the book and you can actually go through it and start, just looking at stuff. And by the way, just reading the table of contents of a book like this, guys, you'll learn so much. And, you start reading the first few pages, you know what I mean? And you will get an idea just in the introduction of, and whatever pages they have, you'll get an idea of, you know, um, what the book's about and things of that nature. So I want to spend some time talking about this amazing book. I've actually made a whole bunch of notes, and I hope that you can actually see and hear me. I hope that the resolution is not as terrible as it seems. It seems actually pretty bad. So I've got a whole bunch of notes here, and I'm just going to go through them. I don't know if you can see them all. Um, if it wasn't for the fact that I have the notes on my iPhone, because the iPhone 4, guys, is the last phone that the late and esteemed Steve Jobs used. May he rest in peace. May God forgive his sins, elevate him in stature. People say he didn't believe in God. I will say he's a living embodiment of what a self-actualized person is. I mean, he's the ultimate believer. The guy basically created industries in his stride. Pixar and iPad, iPhone, obviously iPod, right? Starting Apple and the desktop publishing revolution, all these kinds of things. Guys, you can't discount the value or the actions of someone who basically has gone through life at the very limits, essentially. I mean, you know what? No one on this planet is going to say Steve Jobs is unsuccessful, and ergo, he's successful. If he's successful in this world, he'll be successful in the next world, right? He's definitely not an example of one of those people who are rich and powerful, and they become a tyrant, and they oppress people, and they kill people, and they become liars, and addicted to drugs, and money, and power, and wealth, all this stuff. His salary at Apple was $1 million a year, guys. He took the company, he came back and saved the company, and took it to a market capitalization of $450 million. That was the most valuable, or even $650 million. ExxonMobil was at $450 billion market value. Okay, market capitalization. If you take all the assets of the company, all the debt, all this kind of stuff, and factor it out, this is what the company is potentially worth with all the shares and assets and employees and everything, contracts. Guys, what I'm trying to say is Steve Jobs took Apple to be the top or the most valuable company in the world. This is the last device that he used. This is the last phone that was put out under his patronage, as far as I can tell. Steve Jobs passed away, I think, circa 2011, 2012. In any case, this phone is extremely, you can be extremely productive on an iPhone, guys. Like Google, I've tried all kinds of different keyboards on an Android. I've tried all kinds of different smartphones. There's nothing that even comes close to an iPhone. I wouldn't even dare try and make notes like this. I got like a couple of pages of just notes here, guys. I wouldn't even try and make something like this if it wasn't for the fact that it's an iPhone. So let's dig into it. How Google works. Okay, so basically Google was founded, I would say, circa early 2000s, maybe 2002, 2001, somewhere in that range, by a couple of students at the University of Stanford, Larry Brin, Sergey Page. You might have heard the names. Right now, Larry Page is the CEO of the company. For a long time, the CEO of the company, one of the guys who took it to where it is today, was a guy by the name of Eric Schmidt, who actually wrote this book. Now, I wanted to show you that you can order the book from Amazon. You can also go to your local library and download an app called Overdrive for your phone. I could probably show it to you here on my phone. So basically, Overdrive, you have a situation where you can actually, let's see if this comes up here. So you have a situation where you can actually go, you can see that right now I'm reading Matt Taibbi's The Great Divide, right? Taibbi. And, I usually listen to one book at a time because I want to make sure I read them. Or I might have a non-fiction and a fiction book. Guys, you'll find all kinds of great stuff on Overdrive and your local library. You know what? If they take a book and turn it into an audiobook, then there's a good chance that it's a best-selling book, it's a great book, it's a very well-received book, and that's the only reason that they're turning it into uh, an audiobook. Guys, I got so many notes here. At the rate I'm going, this is going to take a long time. We're already at 6 minutes. I appreciate you taking the time. I guess, in terms of a general conclusion or summary of what I got from this read, this book actually changed my life, guys. If I was to show you the inside of my room, it's a complete mess. The inside of my apartment's a complete mess. For the last 2 months, I've been under so much duress and pressure. I've been sick. That's why I got these toques on, as unprofessional as it looks. I wanted to put on a collar for this talk, right, so that people take me seriously. But I've been sick. I've lost jobs. I've been in trouble with the police. I've had the police come around here. I've been in fights with my neighbors. I'm going through litigation with my property management company, and because they haven't turned on the heat, right? They say the heat's on automatic. It's like April right now. I still got a heater on. I still wear multiple toques, and I got like 3 blankets that I used to go to sleep. In any case, all that Larry and Sergey did, and this is what Eric Schmidt, he was the CEO of Google. He's now chairman of the board, something like that. And he's this, obviously, this esteemed Silicon Valley executive. He was the ex-CEO of Novell. Okay, Novell's a great company. I don't even know if I'd call them a database company or what kind of company, but the point is they're still a great brand. They've been around for 20, 30 years, and they've gone through all kinds of business model changes, and they've come out on the other side of the chasm. Jeffrey Moore, the technologist and futurist and market analyst, business strategist, I guess you could call him. He talks about how technology companies have to cross the chasm. They have to go from being specialized, dealing with just a couple of high-end clients, to mass market. When their product becomes a commodity, you can order it from a website. They just ship like crazy, and they grow like gangbusters. So Novell is still there. Eric Schmidt came to Google from Novell. The thing that Larry and Sergey Brin, the co-founders of Google, did, guys, that was above and beyond anything, is they hired what are called a whole bunch of smart creatives. Okay, now I'm a smart creative. You take a guy like Steve Jobs, he's actually a diva. A smart creative or a diva is a person who's highly intelligent. It's like Einstein said, guys. I've started using this in my email signature. Basically, the problem with smart people, according to Einstein, apparently he said this famous phrase, which is according to dumb people, smart people look like they're crazy. Smart creatives, they live in a whirlwind of activity and creativity. Their rooms are a mess, their offices are a mess. The typical smart creative at Google is there's piles of stuff everywhere, and charts and Gantt charts and org charts and flow charts and use case summaries and business plans and all kinds of stuff. And in this whirlwind of craziness, these guys exist on a very creative level. So Google essentially is a company of smart creatives, and Larry and Sergey Brin were divas or smart creatives, and according to Eric and popular conventional wisdom at Google, I've actually now been in touch with people from Google since I started tweeting from this book. Some people from Google actually follow me now on ex-Googlers on Twitter and LinkedIn, I'd say. And interacting with these people, they're really out there. Their profile pictures are kind of crazy. They got like stuff from Pulp Fiction and just crazy native type of art, and they're not your cut and dry professionals. You won't see them in suits and ties the whole time. Like Steve Jobs was famous for walking around Apple offices barefoot. He'd go to board meetings barefoot. He'd show up in front of customers barefoot. The guy was actually a bit of a basket case in terms of, non-functioning individual. His main power in this world was what people called Steve Jobs' reality distortion field. The reality distortion field was the force of his power and the force of his personality, where he could actually basically convince a room full of people about the craziest ideas. And afterwards, people would be like, whoa, we were all nodding and we all agreed with the dude, but doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Anyway, hiring is a big part of what this book talks about. How to hire the right guys, how to make them feel protected, how to make them feel comfortable, for uh, how to reward for results and creativity and innovation and all the things that a regular company will tell you that they're into. Google actually is into. I tell people all the time, if you're a self-starter and you're an innovator and you think outside the box and you're a free thinker, you will get fired from most companies. If you stand up in a meeting in front of your regional managers and point to your boss and say, he's totally wrong, guys, this is the way it should be. This is how I used to operate, and this is why I can no longer exist in the corporate world at large. Company like Google, I really think I might have been able to work at it. I remember biking in Seattle down by the water, down by the trail, and seeing the Google office right on the water. And it's so just amazing, the idea that they have a company full of seemingly crazy people like myself who are super intelligent. So out of the chaos and out of the speed and out of the craziness comes all this amazing work. It's like Mario Andretti said. Apparently, this is something that this guy quotes, that if you are in control of what's going on, you're not going fast enough. The processes of the business should not be able to catch up with the business itself. The business processes should always be lagging behind the business. It's like when Eric came over from Novel, it was a really well-run company from a traditional perspective, but the business was sucking. They were losing money. It wasn't creative. It wasn't innovative. Hey, when Google acquired Motorola, same thing. They had all of these sleek corporate savvy type executives who came up with all these sleek corporate cut and dry products that were safe and essentially invented and decided on by committees. And it's like David Ogilvy, the father of advertising, says that ads created by committees generally suck. They're the lowest common denominator. Anyway, in Google they talk about knights and knaves. They have a culture of honor, they have a system of shared values, and they say that social controls are the thing that motivate people the most. It's not the money, it's not anything else but social controls. People want to excel in front of other people that are similar to them. And so in Google, you've got knights and knaves, the concept. They don't have knaves there. Knights are people of honor, and they call you out if you're doing something stupid, and they hold each other to high standards. Knave is just an average schmuck who's just bumbling through life, and he just wants a paycheck. And I guess in Google, the knights and the knaves obviously can't coexist, and you want a culture of knights. You get rid of the knaves. Okay, so there's an us against the one world mentality. They mentioned this great talk on TED, which I encourage you to look at. I don't know what it's called or who it's by, but I have seen it actually prior to reading the book. It's very interesting. It's another sign of God in my little world. So they have this guy who's like they're on the beach or like outdoors somewhere, and there's a whole bunch of people. Some dude just starts dancing, and then after 5 or 7 minutes, some other dude joins him. And then suddenly, like 15, 20 minutes later, you got a whole side of the mountain or side of the hill, and these people are going crazy dancing just based on the passion of that one first guy and the first person who followed him made it okay. So, thinking big is a huge theme in this book too. Okay, so first of all, Google is the most innovative company out there, guys. I think most people will agree with that. You take things like Google Earth, Google Street View, Google Maps, you take Gmail, you take Chrome. You take all these amazing things they're doing. They're doing work with visualization now, the Google Glasses, the Google self-driving car. I mean, you take Any one of these products, a mobile operating system Android, which is open source. So you take something like Chrome, which has as much or more market share than Internet Explorer or so-called Microsoft Edge. Guys, to actually come out with a browser that competes with Microsoft in Microsoft's heyday, that doesn't seem to most people like a cogent business plan. To come out with Google Maps versus Bing Maps or Yahoo, to come out with obviously Gmail competing with Hotmail, right? To come out with an idea that you can drive a car around 5 million miles of road throughout major metropolitan cities throughout the world and map out and show pictures of everything, 360-degree views of everything, and have software that blocks out license plates and takes care of privacy things like blocking out people's features. All of these things, I mean, they seem great after the fact. You've got Google Street View now, you've got Google Car, you've got all this stuff. But do you understand like the craziness that it takes to go into implementing projects like this? When they acquired the company that does Google Earth, the board of directors was asking Sergey and Larry, like, where's the business case behind this? Guys, you're acquiring this and it's great and it's a great adjunct and it'll work well with Google Maps, but we're not making money with Google Maps yet. And now you guys want to acquire this crazy system of looking at stuff in real time or satellite photos or whatever it is, because they're describing something that is not a, they're describing a vision. They're trying to get the board to visualize satellite, Google satellite. And obviously everyone knows it became one of their biggest hits. And it leads to more ad revenue. It leads to more downloads. It leads to what my boss at Computer Associates used to call land and expand. Once someone starts using Google, they're prone to open a Gmail account. Once they do that, they're prone to download Chrome. They're prone to use Google Maps. And as the more you use Google, the more you're going to be exposed to their ads. In fact, I might as well say that AdWords, okay, so they have this concept. How are they this innovative? They have this concept called 20% time. All of the major engineers at Google, they are allowed to spend 20% of their time on whatever project they want. A lot of the major projects at Google and major like AdWords and some of the additions to Street View and Streetcar and stuff, guys, they came up with engineers who were just so fired up they did this stuff on the weekend. They say if you have a 20% project, then you need to find other people and get them fired up, and so that they invest their 20%, and they encourage people to within the company form different groups and just start running them. And if it's a good enough project, sure, you can be in touch with it, you can be in charge of it. What an innovative way of running a company. At Google, they believe in a flat organization. Persons should not have more than 7 direct reports. Small teams work better. Small teams are less politicized. Small teams are more efficient. Small teams, there's better communication. Small teams manage to stick together and go through all the bumps and downs of crazy projects. So you have your 20% time. People come together and they, come up with all this great stuff. Guys, the guy who came up with AdWords, in fact, there's a really great story from the early days where they started running ads, and one day Larry stayed behind and he was looking at some ad results on Google. He went to Google and he typed stuff in, and the ad results that came back were totally not relevant. And he just printed it out. He was pissed off. He didn't say nothing to nobody. He printed the stuff out and stuck it up on the board by the swimming pool or in a common area in the lunchroom or whatever. And he just wrote with a big felt tip pen. He didn't even sign it or nothing. He just wrote, "These ads suck," and he circles them. And now a group of Google engineers eventually ended up spending their weekend and coming up with this very high-end solution. It wasn't even their department. It wasn't even their supposed problem. It was nothing but the fact that some fired up dudes who saw this thing and they took it upon themselves and they took it as a challenge, came up with a solution, gave that solution over to the right department, and life goes on. AdWords now are amazing and relevant. I don't click on too many ads, but I make money off AdWords. I have AdWords on my various websites and blogs, and when people click on my ads, I make money. I'm making money right now shooting this video, and it's based on two things. Google's business model is based on they have the best search in the world, based on algorithms and linking back, and essentially they measure how long does a person actually, if they click from Google and go to a certain page, how many people stay on those pages and read them? The results that come to the top, as a search engine optimization expert, because my website, salesandmarketingforyou.com, separated by hyphens, is search engine optimized. As an SEM or SEO expert, I can tell you that it's not technical stuff and algorithms and whatnot. What Google is trying to achieve is for the best websites by popular consensus to rise to the top. So when people type in a search term and the majority of people like these specific pages, those specific pages are going to rank the best. Because Google's simply assuming that if 80% of people like them, these are probably the right pages to put up there. Anyway, they talk about doing a whole bunch of stuff, failing forward, shipping a lot of products, thinking big. Don't think in terms of 10%. We're going to have a 10% increase. Rather think we're going to make this 10 times better. This quality of craziness and ambition, it pervades everything from the hiring process to how you run teams, to how you promote people, to how you compensate people. And they always focus on quality. Like if you're a hiring manager at Google and you need a guy next week, you might have to wait until next month until you've gone through all of the quality controls. And even to this day, senior executives at Google look at all of the new hires and make sure that what they're trying to do, they got 40, 50, 60, 70,000 employees now. What they're trying to do is bring smart creatives and knights into the organization, and divas, the occasional diva that are impossible to work with, like these crazy sports stars and movie actors and stuff like that. Those guys are divas. Like they have a reputation of being the bad boy in the industry or whatever, but they deliver results, right? So yeah, so Web 1.1, Web 1.0 was essentially things like email and basic web pages. It allowed you to read things and share things. Web 2.0 was the start of e-commerce and file sharing and things like this, like Napster and then YouTube, and you can now do things with Web 2.0. Okay, you go from it being an internet as an information source. With 2.0, internet becomes very immersive. Okay, you're using Google Maps, you're setting up calendar appointments, you're going from email. Like right now, I use Google and I use online like a Googler. I just got this phone recently because I gave my other phone to a friend of mine, but for some time, about a month, I've been just using my iPhone 4 without a phone plan. And when I need data, I'm at home or I go to a Starbucks or something like that, just as an experiment, just to see what would happen. And it works out pretty good. I've got a Google Voice number, aka Hangouts now. Okay, it's a 425 number, Washington State, Seattle. They don't have Google Voice numbers in Canada. Google Voice number is dream magic, guys. Whoever leaves me a message on my Google Voice number, it gets transcribed, it goes to my email, and it's a permanent number. I don't have to worry about nothing. So if you want to call me, a lot of people are like, oh my god, especially here in Toronto, like it's such a trendy city, right? And it's like, oh, do you have a 416 area code or a 905 area code or a 289 area code or whatever? And everyone wants a 416. And when they see a 425, it's like, whoa, what is this? Where's this from? It's long distance and it's blowing people's minds, even though everyone has long distance on their phone. In any case, there's some there's some concepts that resonate in this book that essentially are success principles. Okay, how to run a good company and how to be a smart creative is all about the same thing: how to be successful in life. So you ask the hard questions, you take on the challenges head on, you don't just sugarcoat stuff. If a business unit or a plan or a project can't grow organically, then it's not going to receive funding and it's not going to receive brand equity from other parts of Google. A product is going to rise and fail on its own merit, like the famous Google Wave flop or Google Buzz or the current trials with G Plus. I don't like G Plus, like, because the next after Web 1.0 and 2.0, you have the social web, which is where we live, where like Mark Zuckerberg's vision of everyone connected to everyone is coming to fruition, guys. By 2050, with nanotechnology, we'll have microchips the size of blood cells inside of us, and we will be online. We will be the internet. It's crazy. It's not like the Matrix with machines taking over. We will be the machines. So they have, finally, I guess I'll just say, that when you run a company like this, you attract those kinds of people, and your goal is to create an environment where amazing people want to come and work and do amazing things. Amazing things get done by amazing people, guys. If you're an authoritarian kind of dictator and controller, and you're trying to micromanage everyone from top down, you're not going to be able to run a huge multi-billion-dollar company, because you got to get the right people in and give them the freedom and creativity. So Melissa Meyer, who's now the CEO of Yahoo, she was at Google for a long time, and she brought a lot of this ancient wisdom in with her as well. That people need to feel free. People don't perform best when they do what they're told to do. Rather, they perform best when they do what they want to do. And then you got this concept that that they have at Google, either by Matt Taibbi, the guy who's doing. That's why I downloaded Matt's book. Is because Mr. No, Nassim Taleb. Anyway, I listened to some audiobook. They might prop another book, and I'll go out and download that. Right, and you just go down this endless chain. Nassim Taleb, he's another futurist, technologist, business strategist type of guy. He talks about anti-fragile. Okay, so you've got fragile, then you've got strong. Okay, like something that's fragile is not strong, and something that's strong that's not fragile. They're generally taken to be opposites of each other. He said there's something that's called anti-fragile, whereby the more pressure you put on something, the stronger it gets. That's the okay. So I'm gonna put this aside, and I'm just gonna say that this is the essence of life, guys. Okay, so it's like when the going gets tough, the tough get stronger, or the tough get going. Anyone can come up with a great idea. Anyone can come up with a great business plan. Anyone can come up with a great product or marketing strategy or something on paper. It's when you execute these things that the rubber beats the road and the men are separated from the goats. So resilient people, or smart creatives, or divas, or companies like Google, they are anti-fragile, which means when they come up against obstacles and pressures and uncertainty, like these guys talk about China and their battle with the Chinese government over censorship, and they're being hacked by crazy like armies of technologists, communist technologists, or some crazy stuff that goes on. Guys, they went from two guys in a dorm room to a multi-billion-dollar company. That's one of the biggest brands, and they're serving anywhere from 500 million to a billion queries a day. Now, of course, Facebook's in a different world. They got 1.4 actual users that log on and spend time at their website, which is like the dream world of online. Like what Zuckerberg's done is so above and beyond a normal online activity that to call Facebook a website is it's like calling Eminem a rapper. Eminem is so beyond the average MC. Anyway, I think I've said enough. I hope you like my summary. To cut a long story short, you got to focus on the people. Okay, you got to focus on excellence. You got to focus on user experience. That's another thing that they're huge on in this book. Eric Schmidt talks about how, like, if you make sure that your customer is happy or your user is happy, like other software companies and downloads, you know what it's like. They try and make sure you install certain things. They make it hard for you to leave. Microsoft, I'm having such a hard time with nowadays. Windows 10, I can't even uninstall it. It's like they've changed everything, and you can't do nothing, and you become dependent on it, and that's the way they like it. Google is the opposite. They want to give you a very low touch kind of approach. You like our stuff, here's more of it. You don't like our stuff, you can uninstall it. And they got an automated business model set up. They don't even have to interact with people for the most part. Anyway, hope you like this. It's zaidiboy. Please leave me comments, subscribe to my channel. If you've got other books out there that you'd like me to review, I'd be happy to do that in future years. So salesandmarketingforyou.com, months, let's say. Salesandmarketingforyou.com separated by hyphens. zaidiboy.blogspot.ca. Hopefully my blog's back up. It was down for a bit. And Samuelis Remus at Twitter. Over and out for now. Under 30 minutes. Very happy.